In this episode, we speak with Max Groen and Scott Kirk, partners at Bain Capital, one of the world's leading private investment firms with approximately $185 billion in assets under management. The firm pioneered the value-added approach to investing and has been at the forefront of growth investing since its founding in 1984. Max joined Bain Capital in 2011. He is a partner on the North American private equity team and focuses on supporting the growth of cutting-edge cybersecurity, digital infrastructure, and horizontal application businesses. Meanwhile, Scott joined Bain Capital in 2019 and is a partner on the Bain Capital Tech Opportunities team. He co-leads the team's investments across application software and information services, most notably focusing on vertical SaaS, SMB platforms, and B2B marketplace investments. Previously, Scott was a senior investment professional with TCV. Max and Scott were recognized by GrowthCap as top 40 under 40 growth investors of 2023. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the managing partner of GrowthCap and the executive chairman of Market Insight Media. He is the host of Growth Investor, a podcast featuring today's best investors, executives, and founders. In the minutes ahead, we'll uncover insights and strategies for accelerating growth and succeeding in business.
Max and Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Thanks for having us, RJ. We're excited to be here together too.
So where I thought we would kick off is to hear a little bit about where each of you sits within the organization, within the broader investment firm, because while you both focus on growth and tech, I think you have slightly different roles and things you focus on. So maybe we can start there.
Scott, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, happy to. So by quick introduction, I help lead our application software efforts for a new business unit within Bain Capital, which is the Tech Opportunities Fund. And so I joined here about 5 years ago. Prior to that, spent 10 years at TCV, all focused in and around B2B and application software investing. And maybe just as a little backdrop on this fund and how it sits within Bain, there's a recognition that, Bain Capital's been investing in technology for over 40 years and over $25 billion of capital deployed. But from our perspective, we were missing some unique opportunities to partner with great founders and great management teams. And that was sort of sitting in between our venture practice and seed and Series A traditional kind of investment mandate and our main fund, where Max leads and sits across different geographies. And so we launched this fund with an effort to go after those companies that are really growth stage companies, software companies, oftentimes a few hundred employees that sort of sit in between. And we thought we could have a differential platform to serve them.
And look at, Scott mentioned it, but, I help lead our tech efforts out of our North America Private Equity Fund. We're really unique, and we can maybe get into a bit as to how Bain Capital organizes in tech in a second, and that we really are one of the only firms that goes seed to scale, world-class venture capital team, world-class growth team, which Scott helps lead. And then I, have the privilege alongside, 30 of my peers to help lead what we do on the large scale, buyout side of growth tech investing. And happy to, RJ, kind of tell you a little bit more about my growth journey too, as to how I got here.
Yeah, we'll definitely delve into each of your backgrounds. One thing, we do have quite a bit of founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs that listen in, and it's always kind of difficult to discern among the different firms. Is there a way you typically describe your firm to a founder that really kind of crystallizes in their head how you can benefit them as they kind of scale their companies?
Yeah, look, I'll start and Scott should weigh in. Look, our mission is to have lasting impact, right, with the companies that we work with. That's the fundamental premise of everything we do. And the way we do that is we look to partner, right, with great founders, great management teams, RJ, like you're talking about, and really seek to be that inflection capital that can help them grow and accelerate their businesses. As I said, what's cool about our platform is we get to do that at every stage. We can do that from that seed stage, that founder that's got his or her first idea around a company, or we can do that with, some of the leading enterprise, large scale tech investments in the world. And where it starts with us is we want to find businesses that have, in tech specifically, that have that best product, that have great product market fit. We get excited about finding those, like products that customers love, that have high net promoter scores, that have NPS, like customer advocacy. And then we find a way to help a founder or a management team take that core product and accelerate the growth, be that inflection capital, as I talked about, by working with them and bringing our deep bench of operating capabilities to bear. Like our history, right, as Bain Capital is we are a spin out from the consulting firm Bain & Company 40 years ago. And so our focus is to find those great products and technology and add strategic value by bringing operating expertise in sales and marketing and M&A and strategy, and to be able to take all that great work that team is already doing and accelerate and inflect that. And that's where we've really, I think, stood out and been able to partner with founders and teams in an exceptional way over our 40 years of investing in this space.
And Scott, it's interesting that you moved over from TCV, which has a much different backdrop to the firm. How would you kind of compare being part of TCV versus being a much bigger kind of global brand like Bain?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I have so much gratitude for my experience at TCV. And it's really where I cut my chops and sort of learned my own investing style. And so I joined there in 2010, was there for nearly a decade. And I worked with just an exceptional set of investors and mentors. And, it was an awesome opportunity to learn, an opportunity to learn sort of the sourcing process and identifying subsectors and themes and categories that matter. In 2019, I really got this itch and I really wanted to go build something. And I sort of laugh a little bit as it is building something within the confines of one of the world's greatest private equity brands, but the chance to go build something that we thought could be unique. And so what we've done is, this team has been brought together, which is a mix of folks that have come from traditional growth and software investing and those that have grown up within Bain Capital across our private equity business, across our publics business, across our ventures business, and have focused their entire careers in and around software and technology. And so what we're bringing to founders and management teams, first of all, over half the investments that we've made have been in founder-owned businesses. These are companies that have never brought on an external investment partner. And so the decision to bring someone on, it's a lot about building credibility and depth and domain expertise, and also building rapport with these individuals that they're knowing that they're going to be your partner for the next 5 to 10 years. This is the first time that they're going through that process. And so what better place to go do that than at a place like Bain Capital? And I just feel like this is a unique opportunity to work with great operating partners and professionals. And we have a set of resources that we can bring to bear that I think is just very, very different than what you see in the traditional venture and growth sphere. And we try to amplify that. We built out our team, and I think the collaboration is also the biggest piece. Max and I work together all the time, and we are two of many across our venture team, across our main fund, across tech ops, across geographies to identify what are the best companies and how do we go support them. And that's at investment and that's post investment. And I think it's very rare to be able to have that level of resourcing, that type of footprint, and that level of commitment across the culture. And I think our teams feel it in many ways.
What's interesting is I think firms have different takes on how they go about sourcing their investments. They either go top down with a theme, they kind of beginning of the year or whatever point in the year, they analyze kind of what's happening across the tech landscape, and then they go after or investigate certain themes. Or there's the approach of, well, let's work through our kind of relationships and just go out there and see what's happening, see what opportunities we can uncover. And I'm asking, I guess, the question because you have these two different kind of groups, but they work together. So how do you approach the sourcing and identification process?
Yeah, I mean, look, and the answer I think is, RJ, is maybe a little bit of all the above, to be honest. But it is a big asset, right, to have, and not just our two groups, but we've got our venture capital team, as I talked about, who's really at, really the tip of the spear, right? A lot of the tech themes that we see. And so what's important for us is that, our three parts of that tech ecosystem and that life cycle that were really coordinated across the various sectors we serve. And technology is a huge market space, right? And so we're really looking to have thematics within each of the subsectors we focus on. So we'll spend time, thinking about, hey, an infrastructure software, as we're thinking about the growth of data, the shift to cloud, the importance of hybrid IT. What are we seeing at different parts of the ecosystem, and make sure our venture team is talking to our growth tech ops team and what we're doing, in the private equity fund as well, to see, hey, what are the disruptors doing at the start of that, life cycle, and how does that impact the established businesses, and therefore what thematics are most interesting at each life cycle. And that same fact pattern, that same behavior holds true across cybersecurity, across vertical application software, or across fintech and the other pockets that we invest in. And so really spending a lot of time, and a lot of interaction organically between our teams, building both, that bottoms up perspective as we're all meeting, different companies across the life cycle, but also that, tops down coordination around what themes, what plays do we like in different spaces is an important part of what we do.
couple pieces I'd add, RJ. It probably was like, I think there's two embedded points in here too, which is I'm newer to Bain Capital. I just think it's a special culture in the way that it's been built. And I give a ton of credit to the individuals that really launched and started Bain Capital many years ago. But it was a recognition that like we're going to be a really collaborative culture, and structurally, the incentive structure is set up where we are all the largest investors in each other's funds, and so you have this ability where Max is looking at something in an ecosystem where I've spent a ton of time, and we're hopping on, we're getting together in person, we're sharing learnings, and I'm really highly incentivized to think about how he can be successful, how the broader platform can be successful, not just because it's the right thing to do, and that's how we can go build a really unique place for our employees and for our teams, but also because we've set it up that way where partners are the largest investors across every fund. And so I think it's a really unique aspect of the Bain platform.
Yeah, we're all, as Scott says, we're really incentivized and we're all rooting for each other, right? I mean, it is very much a partnership firm, and one, I think, relative to any other investment firm I've encountered, one that has really that mantra of collegiality and collaboration that makes it a great place to work and work together across different business units.
Max, would love to go into your background, and then we'll go into Scott's background as well. But I noticed you started off in consulting, and maybe that kind of colored how you approach, to some degree, working with companies and maybe bringing in other expertise, other operational capabilities to help companies grow. Can you tell us a little bit about your start and your journey?
No, great. Yeah, no, look, as you referenced, RJ, I did start in consulting. I started at the Boston Consulting Group. So not actually Bain and Company, which, Bain Capital is a spin out of. 40 years later, we're a totally distinct organization, but we've got a lot of shared heritage with Bain and Company, but also with other consulting firms like BCG and McKinsey. But also we've hired, people from all walks of life, including places like TCV, obviously, where great talent like Scott, or investment banking, other places. But I did get my start in consulting, like many of us here. I spent a little bit of time in tech, but generally had worked with companies across industries on strategy and growth and what they did. But I wanted to make that pivot and shift to say, look, I mean, it's really interesting giving advice to businesses, but I want to have, skin in the game. I want to be not just helping a company focus on a singular issue for a brief period of time, but how do I have longer term impact? How do I really, partner alongside a management team, not for the scope of a single consulting engagement, for a multi-year building of that business. And that's really what led me to investing, and particularly investing in the way that Bain Capital does, right? Which is with that focus of lasting impact and building great businesses. So I joined in 2010. So I've been here 14 years. It's been a great journey. I actually did not start out in tech specifically. A lot of us, here in our early years, you get a chance to rotate and see a couple different places. So I did some healthcare and some industrials and energy. And then actually in 2012 was looking at a oil and gas software business. Even though Bain Capital has been investing in tech for a long time, first software company I'd looked at, and I said to myself, I don't really love the end market of this business, but man, this business model around kind of recurring, revenue growth, the kind of IP that they have, the moats, this is an awesome business. Like, let's find more ways to do this. And really for me over the last, therefore 12, 13 years, it's been about investing in tech companies, helping lead what we do, and helping create, businesses that we think can really change the IT landscape. And so, that's how I found my way into my role.
Excellent. Maybe we'll switch over to Scott's journey. I think we share a company in our past, which is Merrill Lynch. So let's hear about how you got your start and then ended up in investing.
So yeah, I started my career. I went to Santa Clara University. I studied accounting, math. I tried a bunch of different things. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and investment banking sort of came on my radar towards the end of my college tenure, and I had an opportunity to join the B of A investment banking group. It's sort of a funny story. It was, you have an offer between tech and real estate, and I thought a lot about it. I didn't have a strong perspective. I said, you know what, I want to do real estate, and they said, I'm sorry, the other analysts already chose real estate. You'll do tech. And it's just a great reminder to me of the random walk that is life and that is our careers, because I'm so happy now that I'm in software technology, but who knows what could have been if I started there. So I started in the technology group, pretty turbulent time, right? I graduated in 2008, and so joined Bank of America. Subsequently, there was the merger with Merrill Lynch. Had a great couple-year experience there, and then went over to TCB. And so joined TCB in 2010. Spent almost 9 years there with the focus in B2B application software. Learned a ton from the group there. Had a great experience, and then ultimately made my way over here to Bain.
And you both went to HBS. We have quite a few investors that we have on, and I would say there's a good portion of them that went to HBS. What is it about the school Is there a track towards investing that really people focus on? How would you characterize the nature of the program and where people tend to focus?
It's obviously a great program, and we're both lucky enough to have attended there. I think for me, what made the program special, and I think why, maybe there are a lot of folks in investing who've done it, but is the nature of the academic curriculum is it is the case-based method in terms of kind of instruction and learning. And so that's not to say that, you don't get into class every day and just, listen to lectures and take a bunch of notes. It's you kind of read a case study on a business, on a problem, on an investment, if you will, if you're focused on investment classes. And then you get into that room and you discuss that issue with 90 of your peers that come from all walks of life, that have come from all kinds of industries, countries, backgrounds. And so being in that world and have different perspectives, and it makes it really fun because it's, you're debating and there isn't necessarily one right path. There isn't one right answer to the discussion. And so I think having that perspective and being in that conversation and having that discussion in a group where, you learn that answers to business problems are, they're art, not science, right? There's nuance to them. I think that's the same lesson you can apply to investing, right? Obviously, we look at a bunch of data and numbers and math, and we do a bunch of analysis on things, but it's not like there's, one absolutely right price for the business at the end of the day. There's a lot of judgment and discussion, right, that goes into deciding when and how to make an investment and how to build great businesses.
I've noticed too when I speak with investors, even like casually and socially, and you get into talking about just kind of experiences, people love talking about their favorite deal. And it could be the one that was the most challenging and where it really tested their mettle, or it could be the one where like unexpected things happen and it totally transformed the way the investment performed. But would love to hear if you could share kind of your favorite deal. I don't know, maybe Scott, should we start with you?
Great question, RJ, and always dangerous to choose one that's in the current portfolio and in flight. But first maybe some context setting. There was a company at the top of my list, that I met in 2015 and had been trying to invest in for many, many years. But it's a business based out of Lincoln, Nebraska. It provides match analysis and scouting and recruiting tools to high school, college, elite, professional organizations in sport, right? And it's all centered around video. It's a business called Huddle. Remarkable business founded by three individuals out of the Rake School of Engineering that identified this problem and first solved it for the University of Nebraska football team very quickly, pivoted to then bring that technology, democratize it really to the high school sphere, and then it built upon that initial start in a pretty material way. The reason I bring it up is I'd always wanted to invest in this business. And the CEO was always incredibly gracious, kind, spent time with me, but ultimately said, we have no need for capital. And it was a largely bootstrap business and funded through, I think, great product to customers. And, I got a call at the beginning of 2020. And the CEO said, hey, we're heading into this very huge unknown that is this roaring pandemic. And it's really hard for me to see what's going to happen to our business. And I'd love the opportunity to bring on an equity capital partner, someone that can support us through this journey, bolster the balance sheet, enable us to play some offense. And I share this story because I think it's a great reflection of this platform, right? And the opportunity to leverage the learnings and expertise of others. And so I was giddy when we got this call and said, hey, let's go after this. It's a really unique opportunity. But I was also daunted, right? Underwriting in the context of the pandemic and a sports technology company that serves high schools and elite teams when there's no certainty around sports being played, fans attending anything. It's a very wide fan as you can think about the performance of that business in the context of that backdrop. But this is a really unique place to go look at that. It turns out that Max's team and the broader North America private equity team had invested in a business called Varsity Brands, which is the category leader as it relates to apparel for high school club and the youth kind of sports segment. And so I got to know that investment team, the operating partner, and that full team ultimately connected to the CEO. And we started to spend time together on a near daily basis. And he was sharing sort of the learnings that his business was going through in the onset of COVID. And that was, point number one. I think point number two was leveraging the diligence learnings, right? Like they had already gone through and done all of the work as it relates to sizing the high school market, the elite market, thinking about what the types of opportunities exist. And that was a huge piece there. And ultimately, it's just people galvanizing around helping us go win. This is a really competitive opportunity. A lot of folks really wanted to go invest behind this team and this company. The co-managing partner, now chairperson of Bain Capital, reminder, we were a $1.3 billion fund on a $180 billion or so of assets under management.
we shared our excitement around this business. He's a, co-owner in a professional basketball team, another individual in a professional baseball team. He opened up those Rolodexes, created the right conversations for diligence, and ultimately, opened up cross-sell opportunities for the CEO. He then texted the night before the deal and said, "Hey, can you connect me with the CEO?" He called him individually to share his excitement around this business and why we'd be a fantastic partner. And fast forward to today, I was wildly wrong on projecting COVID, 2 hours of an IC and articulating what I thought might happen. COVID was substantially worse. The impact on sports being played was substantially worse than we all anticipated. The business has been, exceptionally strong and much stronger than we anticipated. And so it's an investment that I love. We're 4-ish years or so now into the whole period. It's a very special business and a special team. And I think it amplifies just this platform and everybody kind of coming together to try to go win.
Fantastic. Quick question on that. When you first were looking at that company, were there already multiple investors kind of surrounding it?
Yeah, I mean, our understanding is it was not an intermediate process. So David and team reached out to the investor that had spent time with him in the past. I sense was 4 or 5 folks that he had built, close relationships with. So yeah, in this world, there's always going to be some level of competition, and so yeah, fortunate that we were able to come out on top on that.
Excellent. Max, maybe we'll switch over to you and your favorite deal.
It's a tough act to follow. I'm gonna cheat a little bit maybe by referencing 1.5. So look, obviously we invest in a lot of cutting edge technology across our firm, but I think there's also a lot of really established tech that's really important and oftentimes undervalued, right, and mischaracterized. And a place where we've had real insight and differential insight relative to the market over the last 10 years is just in the importance of actually mainframe software and mainframe technology, just the kind of core system of record for so many important businesses across the world. And we actually started that journey by investing in a business in 2013, a big take private, a $7 billion take private of BMC software, with this core thesis of, hey, what BMC does at its center is really underappreciated by the public markets. They're missing the opportunity around how important this data is to banks, insurance companies, telcos, et cetera. And we can really kind of grow and accelerate this platform. We've got to do some cleanup in the private markets to do that. But after 5 years of work, that was a 3 times deal for us and a really home run outcome. What was even more exciting about that, and this leads maybe then into my favorite deal as an active investment, is after we'd kind of sold that business for a great return, we started a dialogue with one of BMC's competitors, which was a founder-owned business here in the Boston area, led by Andy Eunice, who had built a company, Rocket Software, in a similar market with mainframe modernization, data connectivity, and said to us, "Hey, like what you've done with BMC, that's really great. Can we start a dialogue around helping me do something similar?" And so we invested in Rocket in 2018 with Andy as a founder partner and CEO. His vision was to help us grow Rocket, to capitalize on the market opportunities that were there, and also to help build the next generation of leadership to help take Rocket over as he thought about transitioning from a founder owner role to a chairman and investor role. So here we are, we're now 5 years into that journey. We have, together with Andy, we've helped recruit and build the next great generation of that management team led by our CEO, Milan Shetty. We've taken that business from 450 million of revenue. We're closing an acquisition, in a couple of weeks here that will take it to $1.3 billion of revenue and 750 million of EBITDA, and just mission critical software that's transforming what customers are doing in terms of their infrastructure, their data, and their modernization journey, and taking that really sticky, important core of mainframe software and connecting it to cloud and connecting it to other places to get the most out of what they do. So just a great example of us building on investments over time, being thematic on what we've done, and partnering with an exceptional founder and team to triple the size of a business and really build a great platform.
That's a great favorite deal example. I'd like to move into a different area, which is understanding the investment firm fundamentally. And it all goes back to people and how you kind of cultivate a culture. And I realize you were or still are kind of leading the recruiting and kind of cultivating the talent initiative. How do you approach that role, and what are you most focused on?
I think it's a great question, RJ, and one that I think is really important for every investment firm to be aware of. Like our assets as an investment firm are the human capital we have, right, and then the relationships we have with our limited partners and investors. We don't have any real IP, we don't have factories, we don't have brands, we don't have like all these other businesses that we look at, that we invest in. Those have a lot of other assets that are outside of human capital. As an investment firm, your asset is your human capital and your culture. If you're going to be the best investment firm in the world, which is what Bain Capital strives to be, you've got to be hiring, building, developing, and retaining great talent. A really important side hustle I have, in addition to leading tech, is to also, being, helping drive a lot of what we do on the talent front and the recruiting front, as you say, which is really exciting, and fun and a big privilege to have. When I meet with recruits or when I talk to our recruiting team about, why it's so important to be focused on talent the way we are, it starts with the principles of what Bain Capital was founded on, which is like we're an apprenticeship model. And what I mean by that is, as much as I'd like to think I was born a great investor, obviously that wasn't the case, right? Everything I know about investing is because I've sat shoulder to shoulder, with people over the course of, the years and learned about how to do analysis, how to, think about markets, how to evaluate technology, how to add value to companies and partner with our management teams. And that's a really important realization to have, because it means that, I'm humble in my approach, and that I'm also investing in the next, generation of great talent here. And that's a big focus for us as a firm, is to be not just recruiting the best talent in the world. And I think we have a world-class ability to do that. And we recruit from just a plethora of just really talented schools, universities, and companies, but also investing in that talent and making sure that we're setting them up to be successful, because, that next generation, that's got to be the partners of Bain Capital 10, 15, 20 years from now. That's going to be leading the next generation of great investments for us.
Oh, so the only piece I would add, RJ, is like just the commitment to it that exists across. I think you feel it from Max and his leadership in recruiting across our private equity business. It is something I'm deeply passionate about too. But if you think about the commitment that has been created around talent and a recognition of how important that is, every one of us as partners and now interview every single candidate that comes to join within Tech Opportunities. And I reflect on, we just had a partner offsite, a 40-year anniversary, some of the original founders of Bain Capital sitting up on stage. And it was a special moment for me as someone that's newer to this family to just hear them talk about how they built the business that we all benefit from today. And really, to each person, it was looking next to them and saying it was about hiring the best people and building genuine, authentic relationships with those individuals. And you felt it now 40 years later. And I think we just are trying our best to continue down that and ultimately really emphasize hiring folks that come from different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. I'm so lucky to get to work with the 30 or so individuals on our team. And I look around and just the accomplishments of some of these individuals and their backgrounds and their humility. I mean, it's a lot of work to make sure you get recruiting right, but there's also just nothing more important in anything that we do than just the next person that you hire and making sure the people that you do hire are wildly successful.
It's definitely humbling to work with that set of people, because I always say the next generation is clearly more talented than the one that comes before it. And I think Scott and I recognize that with many of the people that we work with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
We're approaching the tail end of the conversation. I have a couple questions, and we'll kind of go in order. On this one, we'll go with Scott first, then Max. So the first question is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I will take Max's 1.5 answer earlier, and I'll cheat with two. And look, the honest, direct answer is my parents. I was raised in a family of two educators that have spent 30 and 40 years respectively as high school teachers and as elementary school teachers, and they're just amazing human beings. And their commitment to their craft and making an impact on students is truly remarkable. And so truly the answer is my parents. And I think in a business construct, a leader that I quite look up to is Gitesh Ramamurthy. So Gitesh is the CEO of CCC. I had the benefit of getting to invest behind Gitesh in 2017, and just in a really formative part of my investing career and figuring out what a great leader looks like. And Gitesh is someone that I really look up to. I mean, he's navigated a pretty complex set of vertical markets across insurance and collision repair shops. I think he's found this right balance in his business and leadership around offense and defense. And most of all, I think he's empowered the leaders around the table. And you feel that in every conversation that you have. And it ultimately comes back to the quality of the individual too. He's someone that, is just leads with humility, has exceptional moral fiber, which I think can be pretty rare sets of traits for individuals that have had that level of success. And so between my parents and Gitesh, those are some of the individuals that I quite look up to.
Excellent.
Yeah, look, it's hard not to talk about family, right? When you talk about people that have the biggest impacts on your lives. And so for me, like Scott, I think certainly my parents were, were immigrants, that came over from the Netherlands. My dad took a boat across the Atlantic Ocean to get here for the first time, and then a Greyhound bus across the country. And my mom, was an educator that worked in schools alongside him for a long period of time. And so, seeing them work as hard as they did, right, to kind of create the opportunity set that exists, for me is certainly something that left an indelible impact. So I think day in and day out, that's something you certainly reflect on. I think when you get to this stage of your life, and then the other one that maybe is a little more unexpected, I'd say, is my kids, too. I've got 4 kids, 4 young kids, and maybe you don't expect this when you kind of get to this phase of your career, but for those of us that are lucky enough to get to that point where you have a family and you're thinking about things, it really helps put priorities in perspective, right? And I think it has helped me become a better partner to to management teams, a better partner to the people I work with, just because it's made me just seeing what we've gone through as a family, and what we what my kids are going through, just relate better to things, and be a better listener, and be a better empathetic and understanding person as it relates to business issues as well. And so day in and day out, I'd say for me, that's where the biggest impact has come.
Okay, last question, and I guess we'll start with Max on this one. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of them, but probably the biggest cause I'm passionate about is just the YMCA. So as I mentioned briefly, my family is one that immigrated here. We immigrated from the Netherlands to Minnesota. There weren't a lot of Dutch families, in the Minnesota community, and so as we were looking for a way to kind of get comfortable, find a sense of belonging and home, for us that was the YMCA, and their mission and their values. And that's where I actually first started preschool. I went to camp there over the years. My first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs, were different jobs at the YMCA, in different forms, from, everything from, working the front desk to being a day camp counselor to everything in between. I think what Ys do for their communities across, this country and this globe is pretty special. And so I'm still very much involved with, with one here in the local community, and think it's one that just is a really good cause and a really good organization that's helped a lot of people and a lot of families like mine over the years.
Scott?
It's a tough question. I go with Make-A-Wish. I was first introduced to the organization. I had a family friend who battled and beat brain cancer. I had a wish granted. I've since had the opportunity to become a wish granter myself and be part of the team there and part of their young professionals board. And I just think the organization is really special. The people that run it, the way they're able to galvanize athletes and celebrities and folks in the community to support children and their families in really tough times is pretty fantastic. And similar to Max, I've got 4 young kids. I thank God every day for their health. But to know that organizations like Make-A-Wish are there for families and children in their toughest times means a lot to me.
Fantastic. Well, Max and Scott, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know our audience will find this very insightful.
Thank you, RJ. Really enjoyed being here and appreciate the really thoughtful questions.
Yeah, thanks, RJ.